Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So today we're going to talk about signs of a lack of intelligence. The article actually said 12 signs of an unintelligent person according to science. I don't know how much according to science this is, but we talk about intelligent people all the time and what that looks like. So now what we're going to talk about is what stupidity looks like, or lack of intelligence. And a lot of times that's a choice. So, especially in modern America. And guys, I live in the States, so I talk about America as the subject matter. I know that in certain countries, they have caste systems, even though they're not supposed to. So in England and in certain countries in Europe and in India specifically, there's caste systems. So intelligence doesn't necessarily mean how successful you'll be or how you're limited. In caste systems, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. You'll have very intelligent people be in a lower caste. That's why they get the hell out of India and come to the States or go somewhere where actual you get your notoriety and your pay and your rise in life based on your own abilities, not a caste system, which is ridiculous and stupid. But let's talk about stupidity. So in this article, and this was an article compiled for Amazing Times, and this is supposed to be a science documentation, says unintelligent person, according to science, is a multifaceted concept encompassing cognitive abilities, problem-solving skills, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. I agree with that. The intelligence should be a multifaceted concept when you're looking at it. It does encompass cognitive abilities, problem-solving skills, adaptability, emotional intelligence, and your ability. So on that adaptability piece is your ability to learn and grow from your own experiences and then put that into practice. Okay, so if you don't have those components, you're not really learning from the mistakes or the things that come in the past. So intelligence does matter around those things. And there's a book that I mentioned just about in every single intelligence video. It's called Successful Intelligence, and it is worth a read if you're studying intelligence or if you're curious about that. It goes into those concepts right there and goes a little bit further and contrast that with what we've marked as an intelligence factor when you're talking about IQ tests and test scores, which we've used internationally for quite a while now to get into universities and to functions like that in specific jobs. Even will have the same type IQ test that wraps around those certain things. There's more testing recently, though, that checks for intelligence in other ways. And they'll have you do functionality tests, which are more indicative to what your success is going to be in that specific role or that specific job. So talking about stupidity, number one, they say is closed-mindedness. I agree with that. If you think about the world as a child, most children if they come up in a two-parent home where the belief system is important to the point that they teach their children their belief system. A lot of kids don't come up in a two-parent home. A lot of kids come up in environments where they just have to survive. And so you're not talking about those folks, because those kids are going to be specifically have intelligence around survival that a lot of people won't have. So closed-mindedness is one of the things you see in children because they grew up in this environment, so they think things as a whole. And use Santa Claus as an example. Either you believe in Santa Claus or you don't. Okay, it's one of those two things. That's a closed-minded concept. So the idea is, as your world increases and expands, so does your perspective. And as you consider alternative perspectives and as you consider wisdom that you get from your culture and the people that you're around, then you'll see that closed-mindedness will fall off. Now, I will say this. When I'm talking about closed-mindedness, I'm not talking about a person's belief system. If they have a belief system that says this is right and this is wrong, that's not closed-mindedness. That's their belief system. It's a cultural aspect, and there's truth in that. So, I read from the Bible all the time. I tell you the things that God hates from those verses, and in those verses, those things in my mind are evil. Most countries in the world have a similar set of beliefs and belief system. I'm not saying in which God or deity. I'm saying in moral beliefs and what is right and wrong. For instance, murder is wrong. Stealing is wrong. These things that have these standard concepts, that's seeing across. So I'm not considering closed-mindedness be about that. It's more around the effect of your ability to learn or to listen to someone else's opinion to find value where there's value and assess and go. That's part of growth. The second is poor listening skills. A lot of times these days, poor listening skills is something that can keep someone stupid. It can keep someone dumb. A lot of times these days, diet has a lot to do with whether people will be able to sit and listen, because now people eat a lot of food product, a lot of sugar, a lot of nonsense like that. But if people just don't listen, then that is abject stupidity. You can watch people put themselves in a far worse situation because they won't just sit down and stop interrupting long enough to listen. And the next thing around that, but they don't listen, they jump to conclusions, they interrupt so they can't get the full story, they focus solely on their own thoughts so they can't hear what's coming to them. These people aren't very effective in any role. If you have people that are triggered, this is a lot of times what get people triggered. They hear specific key tones, specific things that they're listening for, and then they act triggered so they lose their mind. All of that is a sign of stupidity. Anyone with logic and reason knows how to sit and listen, and you don't have to respond to things. You basically just listen. You're like, that's interesting that this person thinks this way. And you may leave and think that person's a complete idiot, and that's fine. But you don't want to tell them you're a complete idiot, because now you're going to draw out the conversation you were going to have with that person. My idea is if someone is stupid and I don't want to respond to them, I just stay quiet. And I just nod, and then I exit the situation, and later I could think, wow, this person was pretty stupid, and I'll probably use them as an example in video. I'll probably say, I talked to this one dummy one time that was so ridiculously stupid, and then use the example. But there are a lot of people out there struggling. And if you look at IQ tests specifically around the stupidity questions, you'll see the videos online that are quite scary, where they're asking young folks questions. For example, one of the difficult questions they couldn't answer is, what countries border the United States? Well, everyone that's ever seen a globe knows that Canada's above the United States and Mexico's below the United States. Everyone that's ever seen a globe once. That's the easiest countries to identify, because it's 3 huge countries on one solid continent. It should be something very easy to identify. People in this very country are graduating high school not knowing the answer to that question. So that shows that people are stupid, and schools are no longer holding people to the expectations. However, if you were to come to this country and try to be a citizen, that citizenship test is pretty tough. It's based on what used to be social studies or history on about a 4th grade, 5th grade level. And I'll tell you, most high school students and some college students these days couldn't even answer those questions. So stupidity also is a ranging thing, because over time, people put different values on certain types of knowledge. So the next one they call out is difficulty understanding abstract concepts. I think you have to watch what you do there, because it's the same thing. If you look at a fish and you say, okay, fish, you're really dumb if you can't climb this tree. It's ridiculous. The fish can swim and will outswim any monkey, man, or ape, right? But if you try to put that fish in a tree, the fish can't climb. So I think one thing we can say to modern science is we now understand better that abstract concepts mean different things to different people. So it's not suggestively stupid. But here it says abstract thinking involves the ability to grasp complex ideas, consider hypothetical scenarios, and engage in theoretical reasoning to a point. But I think also when you think about where people are from, they're going to have certain abstract ideas that are different than ours. So this is often associated with higher intelligence, while individuals with lower cognitive abilities may struggle to comprehend abstract concepts, preferring concrete and tangible information. I think, first off, everyone prefers concrete, tangible information. And I think from there, people have a better idea of where to grow from and what's abstract, what's not. I'll say this too. If you run teams and you're trying to train teams, you need to start where the expectations are the same for everyone. And what that's doing, that's giving the concrete and tangible information up front, so people can then grow from there. And whether or not they're limited or not around abstract concepts, that's a good way to start people off. Number 4 is lack of curiosity. I think that is a good call out. A thirst for knowledge and natural inclination to explore new ideas are the hallmarks of intelligence. That is true. That's not only true in humans, that's true in apes and other animals. I say apes because I just read an article yesterday about bonobo monkeys. And bonobos are like chimpanzees. They're actually a different family of apes, but they're like chimpanzees. They look just like them. But bonobos have shown intelligence where if someone doesn't know where something is. So the way they did the test is there are 2 scientists in a room with a bonobo. And one scientist is looking this way, and the other scientist is talking about the treats. And he has the treats somewhere where this scientist doesn't know where they're at. And so then when the bonobo does a trick that deserves a treat, and this scientist is saying where are the treats and looks like that, the bonobo will actually point and show him where it's at, to help him out so he can get his treat. That's a level of intelligence that we didn't think some apes had before. So that's an ape inferring that this creature did not understand what that creature had done. And so the ape told this creature, hey, it's right there. Check that out, which is a personal thing. That's personal communications. Humans do that, even at the basic level. Even children will do that. And they're saying chimpanzees and bonobos, they're as intelligent up to a 5 or a 10-year-old, depending on some of the tests that they put them through. But that's something to think about. And the curiosity piece is another thing that great apes do regularly. They're extremely curious. But even dogs are curious. You can see a dog turn his head sideways and look at something. He's thinking, that's what that is. So curiosity is a sign of intelligence. The reason pigs, dogs, cats, apes, horses, the reason those are the animals that have been domesticated is because they all show some cognitive curiosity and inclination to explore new ideas as well. So, toys and things like that. Horses are skittish at everything, and some of that has to do with their curiosity. And yes, a 1,600-pound horse will think a plastic bag will kill them. I mean, they're absolutely sure it will absolutely murder them. So if you've been around horses much, they jump to the side and bounce around, and they can be dangerous if you don't have them trusting in you enough that you're not going to let the Ziploc bag eat them. So that quest for knowledge, thirst for knowledge, is an absolute sign of intelligence. That curiosity is an absolute sign of intelligence. That's not just a human sign. So that is definitely a sign of stupid people. They lack curiosity. Poor problem-solving skills. So the ability to identify, analyze, and resolve problems effectively is a key aspect of intelligence. Individuals with higher cognitive abilities are often resourceful, adaptable, and think critically to find solutions. Those with lower intelligence may struggle with problem solving, resorting to impulsive decisions and emotional reactions, or avoiding challenges altogether. The other thing, too, is people that are mentally limited will more often make impulsive decisions and have emotional reactions because they don't have the depth and breadth to figure their way through some things. So in recent years, it's been clear, we've seen across culture that there's a lot of people out there with mental issues. Okay. And then you take the diet that they eat, which is mostly carbohydrate, mostly foodstuffs. It's not actually food. It's not meat or vegetable. It didn't come from a natural source. It was made out of byproduct of a natural source. That with the increased sugar amounts, it's allowing their brain to work in even a poorer state. So you have people that are out there overly impulsive and overly emotional. And one, it is a sign of a lack of intelligence, but two, it also can suggest that they have some mental or physical challenges that they're unaware of. So if you look at the last 5 years and how people have acted in public and what we've seen people do on the internet, those are stupid people. And here's the fact. There are 8 billion people, 8 and some change on this earth. That's more people than ever been on this earth at any one time. There are more stupid people alive today than there ever been before because populationally, there's more people, which suggests there's more stupid people. Okay. And I'll use one of the videos we did recently was about the government group now with Elon Musk and those cats that are going out to look and cut costs and find people that have committed fraud and let's penalize those people. I paid a $4,000 tax bill today. I think paying a dollar tax is theft. I think paying tax is theft altogether. So I am a logical person that has businesses and does things professionally. So I understand that taxes are a pain. Anyone that would think that the Elon Musk thing, trying to be efficient and cut government waste, is bad, in my opinion, that shows the biggest lack of intelligence. When you make something like that into party politics. So that's the next thing I would say is stupid in my mind, where somebody is so stuck in a party that they can't use their logical reasoning to think why this is good. So I'll use that example too, and I'll say that. This doesn't say that, but I think it is a cognitive limitation if you call yourself a Democrat or Republican and you do not listen to the different ideas and different facts. One party or other and thinking holistically in one way is a limitation and shows a lack of intelligence in my mind. Because any jackhole that will want to pay more taxes and have the government spend it without any fiduciary responsibility, without any idea around sticking to a budget or anything like that, is a moron. You're paying for a train that's riding down the tracks on fire. And you're not trying to put it out and it's headed towards your house. You get what I'm saying? It's stupid not to try to correct those things, but that may be in those people's minds an abstract thought or an abstract thing because they may not grasp it. So that's the point when you're trying to argue with somebody. Don't get in the pattern of arguing with fools, because they may drag you down to their level and beat you with experience, as the old quote goes. The sixth one is difficulty adapting to change. Life is constantly evolving. The ability to adapt to change is essential for success. Intelligent individuals are typically flexible, open into new experiences, and capable of adjusting their strategies when circumstances change. Those with lower cognitive abilities may be resistant to change, clinging to familiar routines, struggles, and cope with unexpected events. I'll say this. I agree with that. Smart people can adapt. Dumber people cannot. But it also depends on that person's history. If a person's been damaged, then they need a fixed situation to make them feel comfortable. It may not have anything to do with cognitive abilities. It may be out of their fight or flight, their fear complex, right? They may like the same routine forever. Even if it's painful, even if it keeps them below where they should be, it just may be comfortable enough where they have some sense of security from that, because they may not have a sense of security at home. They may not have a sense of security in other things they do in life. So I do think that's a good call out, but I don't think necessarily it might be 100% correct in finding stupidity. And I like using the word stupidity instead of unintelligent, because unintelligent sounds stupid to me. Some people are going to be limited. Number 7 is impulsivity. I said that earlier. People that can't control their impulses, they're called children. Okay. And if it's an adult that can't control their impulse, then it's called a victim or a moron, because they're deliberately doing things without thinking through them first. So impulsivity, even though it can be fun sometimes and it can be interesting when you're in relationships, etc., because it gives a benefit of surprise, but those with lower cognitive abilities may be prone to rash decisions, emotional outbursts, and impulsive behaviors that can lead to negative outcomes for them and everyone around them. So, for example, if you have a friend group that has an impulsive person in it, it's extremely impulsive, and you're out with that person often, you could put yourself in harm's way with that person because they don't think through things. That's why I say birds of a feather. If you're with people that think through things, that are logical and intelligent, and even if you're dumb, if you surround yourself with intelligent people and respond the way they do and watch them respond first to do that, it can put you in a better situation where you look more intelligent than what you are just because you keep your mouth shut and you're mimicking somebody that's intelligent. That's the way to go. That's what animals do. That's why animals stick with human beings. They know that we are safe. There's been wild animals that come up to people. There's been injured animals that have gone into hospitals and veterinary clinics to get medical help because they know that's where sick animals go. There's dogs that bring leaves to street vendors because they see people hand cash to street vendors for food. And so there's dogs that mimic that sometimes, showing that same form of intelligence. So it doesn't mean that they understand that this leaf is worth $10. They just see a habit where a person gives this person something that looks like a leaf. It's green, and so now the dog does it, and the dog gets the food back for that. So it just shows that even those things that don't have the same cognitive abilities, if they watch and react and mimic, they can come off better than what they would if they're being overly impulsive and stupid. Number 8 is overconfidence. This is typically youthful stupidity. Overconfidence is, while confidence can be a positive trait, excessive self-assurance can be a sign of lower intelligence. The Dunning-Kruger effect suggests that individuals' limited knowledge or competence may overestimate their abilities, while those with higher intelligence are often more aware of their limitations and open to learning from others. So the smarter you are, the more you know that you don't know. Okay? The smarter you are, the more limitations you know that you have. Stupid people are often falsely overconfident. It's like every dumb young boxer that thinks he's the greatest in the world when he's only fought punks, and then he gets in the ring and the good guy knocks his head off. It's exactly the same as that. Or anybody that's a loud mouth walking around acting as they're big and bad, and the first time you put them to a test, they fail. It's bravado. And so I don't really call that confidence. I think it's bravado because it's false. Confidence is real. Confidence comes from knowing you can have a certain impact, because historically you have a pattern that suggests you should have that impact. For example, if you follow boxing, in my mind, Canelo is always going to win. Why? Because he's won a lot more fights than he's lost. He's been a professional fighter since he was 14 years old. So it shows that he has that history of winning. That's what confidence versus overconfidence is. Overconfidence is people walking into dojos off the street and trying to talk to a professional fighter that they can handle them because they're a street fighter, and then getting their butts handed to them because this person practices every day for 2 to 3 hours and you don't do anything but run your mouth. Why do you think you can stand against that? When I was in college, I got jumped by 4 football players at the university I went to, and these guys were pretty big guys. The biggest one was like 6'6" and weighed about 300 pounds. But I was a professional fighter at the time. And so I tried to tell them before they started this, I said, guys, I fight for 3 hours a day. You know, you guys play football for 3 hours a day, which makes you think you're tough. I actually break bones. And so they tried to jump me, and they found out what came from that. I broke bones, right? There was no football to be played. So that overconfidence is a part of that stupidity. And that's why I love watching dangerous people walk around in public and see some over-bravadoed moron come and talk to them, and they just mop the floor with them. I always enjoy that because that's a lesson that person will not have to learn again. You know, they just learn. You're going to learn today, as they say. The next one they say is poor emotional regulation. I absolutely agree that is a sign of stupidity. However, emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize and understand and managing one's own emotions and the emotions of others. It's an important aspect of overall intelligence. I will say this, though. Human beings are more medicated today than at any point that they have been in history. So with that being said, there are a lot of things that people cannot help but respond to because of the medication they may be on. Okay? Like for psychotic individuals, there were medicines that they were given out in the 80s and 90s that were untested that made these psychos lose their minds because now they had no fear of pain or retribution at all because they were already limited in that capacity, and this medication took the rest off. And so people got just plain stupid and did things that should have been physically impossible, but they did it in a way because they had no fear. So it's important to know if you're talking about poor emotional regulation, are you talking about somebody that's in a tough spot, or is it just plain stupidity? 90% of the time, it's going to be plain stupidity. But that other 10%, it's going to be because people are up against a wall and fight or flight kicks in and they have to fight their way out. So it may be that they're acting like something like that. Number 10, lack of self-awareness. This is one of the worst, okay? I tell people all the time, based on what you do, write notes down. Have a book where you write stuff down on the days. I use things like this all the time to track what I'm doing. This is literally a checklist to track how I'm doing on it. Assess yourself and reassess. Have some self-awareness. One time, my company that I work for put on this big deal where they brought all the top-line leaders in, and they had us meet with psychologists and everything else. And those psychologists were giving a personnel form about us before we got in that room. This is something the company paid for. I thought it was a bit strange. But I went in the room with the self-awareness person, and they said, so tell me about yourself. And I said the 6 points that I thought would be on the thing. The guy just smiled, stood up, shook my hand, and said, good job, and I walked out of the room. He basically said I had the highest self-awareness score there. What that means is I'm not better than other people. It's just I know how other people view me. I know how I view myself, and I know the differences between the two. So if you do a 360 review, or you have people do a 360 review of you, or if that's something your employer provides, pay attention to those things. Because what those things can tell you is what other people think about you that may be different than what you think about, and the percentage of variance between the two. And that will help you build that concept of self-awareness. Okay, so self-awareness involves understanding one's own strengths, weaknesses, values, motivations. This is essential for personal growth, self-improvement, and building healthy relationships. An individual with lower intelligence may lack self-awareness, struggling to identify with their own emotions, biases, and limitations. And then the other piece I said is what I just mentioned. If you have some familiarity with other people's opinions. Now, at the end of the day, I think you should be true to yourself and always be who you are. Because God made you, there's only one of you. He made you miraculously, and you're splendidly and miraculously made is what the Bible says. So you should be you, but do it in a way that's responsible and brings the kind of attention you want. If you want examples of people doing it wrong, just watch TikTok for more than 2 minutes and you'll see at least 15 examples of stupidity. All right, the 11th here is the inability to learn from mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, but the ability to learn from them is a key aspect of intelligence. Excuse me. Intelligent individuals are often reflective, able to analyze their errors, and adjust their behavior accordingly. Those with lower cognitive abilities may repeat the same mistakes, failing to recognize patterns or learn from their experiences. I agree with that completely. I have fired adult human beings before because they didn't know that you don't use your cell phone on a manufacturing floor, or you don't discuss an employee's private information with other employees. These are things that people should know, and when you correct them on a smaller level once before, they should learn that. And so I went on to a plant one time on third shift, walked in at lunch, nobody knew I was there. Walked onto the floor, and as I walked towards a gentleman's area, I could tell he was putting on a show. And so I walked up, and his phone was running, and I caught this gentleman with his phone before, so I just jumped on his live and said, "Come with me." I said, "So folks, as you'll see now, this gentleman is now being walked out, and most likely will lose his job because he's been told not to have his phone in his work area before because of safety considerations, but also the equipment he is using is licensed and special, and we don't want the visions of that getting out to competitors, etc. So since this is live, just wanted to update you on the updates and events." And the gentleman was walking out. He was like, "Oh, no, man, really?" I'm like, "Could be." And so then I cut his phone off. I look at him like, "What the hell are you doing, dude? You got 3 kids at home. You buy their groceries. You put this job is what gives you the medical benefits. What are you doing? Why would you throw all of that away for some views and some likes on the internet?" Now, if you do the internet stuff professionally, okay, do that, but you don't have any place to do that, appropriately inside of a job. So it comes back to that same thing. Everyone makes mistakes, but you have to be able to learn from your mistakes and prevent yourself from have those happening again. It's very simple too. Excuse me. People are set in fixed action patterns. So their mental point where they made a mistake before, their logic will drive them back to that spot again. And so they need to know how to refrain from that prior action and correct the action moving forward. And that is the best side of intelligence, because we're stuck in fixed action patterns. So we have to learn from those mistakes so we don't have the same results. Okay. 12, and the last one on this list, says stupid people have difficulty understanding different perspectives. So that's kind of the same as earlier, but I would say it says the ability to see the world through the eyes of others is crucial for empathy, compassion, and effective communication. I agree with that completely. Individuals with high intelligence are often able to consider different viewpoints, understand cultural differences, and appreciate diverse perspectives. Those with lower cognitive abilities may struggle with this, changing their own beliefs and judging others based on their own limited worldview. Okay, so let's say this. I agree with this, but if the person is in a victimized state, it's got nothing to do with their intelligence. If someone's in a victimized state, they have to be at a point where they're in self-preservation mode, which means they're not going to see the world through the eyes of others. They're not going to have empathy. They're not going to have compassion. They're not going to have effective communication. So sometimes when you see people who lack empathy and compassion, it may be that they're just brutal, awful people that need to be sent straight to hell, or it may be that they had no choice and their back was against the wall. So if you look at the case of Sierra Leone with the young kids down there, the black kids in Africa, that saw their villagers killed, saw their families killed, mutilated, raped, all of that. And then the same gangs that slaughter their families then kidnap them and make them soldiers. They have no choice in the situation. It's either they do what they're being told to do, or they're going to get killed or raped, or the horrible things that happen in a world where life doesn't mean a whole lot, right? It's not seen as a high value thing, life. And so where God loves every single soul individually, the world is very different, right? So when you're talking about intelligence, the difficulty understanding different perspectives is a key indicator of the lack of intelligence, but could also be an indicator if someone's in a bad spot that they didn't put themselves in and they don't know how to get out of it. So if you as an intelligent person shows empathy, sometimes that allows a situation to understand people better. Because here's the situation. A kid with a gun is just as dangerous as an adult with a gun. Okay? Just like a kid with a knife sometimes can be more dangerous than an adult with a knife because they don't know the final decisions that those things can make. So just understand that intelligence, sometimes it matters where you're from or what situation you're in or what life you've given yourself. But I do think that's a great call out. We talk about intelligence all the time. These are signs of a limited person or unintelligent person. according to science. If you like information such as this and videos such as this, please like, please subscribe, and check out some other videos. We do stuff. Anything I find interesting that I study on, I do a video and put on the channel. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'm Ben. Be good.